Up until a couple of months ago, I was a professional runner running for New Balance and training to one day become an Olympian. I am no longer a professional runner, and a few of you have noticed that I'm no longer exclusively in New Balance shoes and apparel. Actually, a lot of you have noticed and messaged me about this. In this video, I'm going to explain all of the changes that I've made, why I'm not a pro anymore, why partly that was my decision, and I'll say as much as I'm allowed to, which is kind of limited, which I'll get into. And I'm also going to talk about why I think the pro running world is kind of in a bad place and what this means for me and my running career. Will I ever be a professional again? And do my goals change now? And whilst I've got you here, we have a lofty goal of hitting 100,000 subscribers this year, which some may say is impossible, but not with your help, it's not. And you'll hear in this video why this YouTube channel is going to be even more important to my running journey from now on. So I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and come along for the ride. Right. Okay. I waited for quite a lot of time before committing to making this video, and I even sort of tussled with myself as to whether to make it at all, because when you put a lot of your life on social media and you give the world your thoughts, your goals, your wishes, when you give a lot of yourself to social media, it opens up the window for everyone's opinion and judgment of your every move to be scrutinized. And I totally accept that. But when you make a decision about something that's very important to you, I think sharing that and sharing the thinking behind it when you know that not everyone's going to agree with it, and maybe that's me kind of predicting what people will think. Whether I like it or not, I care what people think, but I also think it's important for me to be honest, which is why I'm making this video. So I guess, please be kind. This is my life. This is a big decision, and I think it's the right one, and I'm gonna try and explain it all and break it down for you as much as I can. So it's not clickbait. I am no longer a professional athlete. And before I get into how this is partly my decision, I want to talk about the definition of being a professional athlete, which a lot of people quite rightly define as being paid to do your sport. So being paid to be a runner or, a footballer or whatever it is, and being supported or paid by a brand on a contract. And yes, by that definition, I am no longer a professional athlete. Just over a couple of months ago now, I ran my fastest 10K in 6 years. Actually, my fastest 10K ever. I completely forgot that was an outright PB. About 5 days later, I had a conversation with my coach at the time and told her that I was going to be moving on from her coaching me and from the professional group setup that I'd been a part of for the last year and a few months. And some of you who have watched this channel for a while may have seen the video I made about us moving up to Manchester, moving our lives 4 hours up the country to join this professional team. That was the move we made. It meant that I quit my job because I had to. I needed to change my life in order to fully commit to running, and joining Team New Balance Manchester was sort of my ticket to doing that, but it wasn't a free ticket, I quit my job and fully invested in starting my coaching business and fully invested in making YouTube my job, whilst also being supported by New Balance with the kit on my back and the shoes on my feet and this group setup that I was a part of. Helen coached me for the best part of 4 years. And when she started coaching me, I was in a very bad place, in a place where I had been broken down, really. My confidence shattered to pieces from my time in America, not really knowing what direction I was going in, not really running particularly great, in and out of injuries, not really doing so good and not really loving this running thing. And she picked me up and she really just helped me get back into it and find my mojo slowly but surely. We simplified things, I cross-trained so that I didn't get injured, and it was the start of me getting back on a starting line, racing again, and then becoming the athlete that I am today, where I feel like I know my body inside out, I know how to be smart, I know how to be determined, and I have a long life in this sport ahead of me still. And I have her to thank for being a huge part of that process to getting me to where I am now. But ultimately, time in this sport relative to your life is very, very short. So there's really no time for any doubts about the coaching relationship you have, or any feelings that maybe there's something missing and it's time for a change. So I listened to those nagging feelings, and I knew in my gut that it was time for a coaching change, which was really difficult. Helen meant a lot to me. She still does mean a lot to me, and is a great friend and someone that I hope to, have in my life and be able to pick up the phone to whenever I need. Oh wow, paragliders. And the other thing that kind of led to this big change, I guess, again, listening to my gut, was that I wasn't happy in the setup that I was currently in. Sometimes the opportunity on the surface or from the outside looking in is very different to kind of like how you end up experiencing it, which is fine, that's life. But I've experienced that feeling of just being in the wrong environment and being in a setup that isn't for me before. And I feel like I'm kind of old enough, maybe getting to the wise enough point. I trust those feelings for what they are. Although we moved our lives all the way up to Manchester, I ultimately decided that being part of Team New Balance Manchester wasn't right for me anymore. And that's okay. I think I built it up in my head to be a lot deeper and a lot bigger than it actually was, because when you're in these kind of team environments, sometimes it feels like you're in a little bubble and you're kind of under the microscope, and your life is kind of shrunk down to the movements that you follow through your routine, the people you see. And actually it's just not that deep sometimes. Life is short. You have to make the decisions that are right for you, and actually telling people how you feel is the right thing to do. Nothing bad happens. It certainly felt like a weight was lifted when I did do that. And I think it's complicated. Some of it is private, and there are also certain things that I would love to share, but for legal reasons, I'm not allowed to, in the sense that every athlete that is on a contract with a brand is kind of signed away to not talk about the ins and outs of that contract. So in the running world, hypothetically speaking, an athlete that is sponsored by Nike is contracted by Nike to compete for them. What does that mean? It means they get provided with shoes and equipment, clothing at the very least. And then beyond that, some athletes are supported with a salary, some athletes are not, and you're not allowed to discuss whether or not that's the case, and you're not allowed to disclose what you are paid if you are paid. And again, I'm not referring to my own situation here because I'm not allowed to. I feel like the running world and the track and field world is a little bit broken in the sense that attaining a contract and being sponsored by a brand is such an attractive thing to an athlete, obviously, because the idea is that you're then paid to run. The reality is most athletes are not paid to run, and if they are paid, they are not paid enough to live. They're professional athletes, but most of the time you also require a job. If not a lot of the time, you definitely require a job because you're actually not paid by that brand. So I think in that sense, this idea of attaining a professional contract to call yourself a professional athlete is so fickle. I wish it wasn't. I wish there was money in running and track and field, but the reality is, unless you're kind of reaching medals at the Olympics or the best in your country, you're probably not going to be able to live off being a runner. Now that's obviously in an old school, traditional sense of brand pays you, you run for brand, you win races, brand pays you bonus, brand pays your salary, etc, etc. The cool thing about today is that there are other ways to make running your job, which I've effectively already done. I'm a running coach, okay, that's completely different. People pay me for my expertise and I coach them to run faster, but also I make videos about running and sponsors come on board to support those videos. You're paid ad revenue for those videos. Those videos are about running. So in a way, I'm kind of paid to run, which is a really cool thing to say. And we've obviously been building that in the background, being able to financially support ourselves. That's, you know, that's my job. It's Daniel's job. He owns half of this channel. He's the editor, he's the videographer. And having built that kind of means that I don't need to worry about a brand wanting to back me and wanting to support me, which is a really unique position to be in. And I'll speak very carefully here because, again, touches into the kind of area of things I just can't talk about. But what I can say is my contract with New Balance came up to an end on the 31st of December, 2023. And typically when a contract ends, the brand can obviously send you an offer before it ends, or they can send you an offer after it ends, and they can have a certain amount of time to match any other like incoming offers from other brands. I ran the Houston Marathon in the middle of January, didn't go how I wanted it to go. And I suppose in the eyes of a brand looking for an up-and-coming female road runner, improving by 2 seconds from May to the following January is not a huge improvement. I own that. You know, I was shooting for much faster. I stand by the fact that I learned a lot from that race and there are faster times to come. But sometimes you have to back yourself before others will back you. Does that make sense? My period of matching rights came to an end. Here I am, the unsponsored athlete. Am I worse off? Well, I suppose you could tot up that by leaving Team New Balance Manchester, I no longer have my physio appointments paid for. That was one of the benefits of being in the team. I also no longer have my training camps subsidized, which was another benefit of being in the team. And now that I'm no longer a New Balance athlete, I actually have to buy my shoes and my kit, which is okay. You know, I was given plenty whilst I was an athlete, so I've got quite a fair bit of kit and shoes. I'm not going into my holy shorts or, you know, my feet aren't bursting out the bottom of the soles of my shoes yet. I'm doing okay. Otherwise, not a whole lot has changed. I no longer get to call myself a professional athlete under the definition of being in a contract, you know, potentially paid, potentially not. But I just ran a 10K PB and I'm on a training camp getting as fit as I possibly can. By the time this video comes out, I will have run the night of the 10K PBs, yesterday actually, if this has come out on the Sunday. I'm still pursuing my goals and my dreams in running. One day, I hope to call myself an Olympian. I'm gonna run faster over the marathon, and I'm gonna do that whether it's under the sponsor of a brand or being supported by what I do, making running my job in a little bit of a different way to how most athletes do. If that means that I can't say I'm a pro, I'm still an elite athlete, that's cool. That's fine by me. I think I've come to a realization that kind of having that title doesn't really mean a lot. You're gonna need to come and see this view because you can't see it from all the way down there. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Look at that! Something about being in the mountains. Beautiful. Right now, the most important thing is that I'm happy, and I'm the happiest I've been in months, which feels really good to say. I'm still training as professionally as I did the last year, and if not more so. I'm still reaching for the same scary goals and challenging myself. And I feel like I'm in the right place to do that with the right people around me. I'm pretty excited about that team that I'm able to surround myself with, which I guess I'll be able to talk a little bit more about pretty soon. Some exciting things coming up. What's next? Well, how about we use the mountains here as a beautiful analogy for my life so far. And this applies to you as well, so listen up. Everything you can see, the beauty, the splendor, all the way up to the mountaintops, as far as you can see across, that's your life so far. and it looks pretty good. On the other side of those mountains is what's next, and I don't know what that's gonna look like, but chances are it's gonna look as beautiful and breathtaking, and the journey will be tough but awesome at the same time, and maybe it will even look better on the other side. That's one very cringy analogy for you, but you know what? It's kind of true. Hey little guy. Will I ever be a professional athlete ever again? I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm certainly not in a rush or kind of impatiently gonna seek that out for the time being. I think being patient is very important in this sport. If in the future I was to be supported by a brand to run for them, I think having the experience that I have now, you know, which no one has until they've been there, no one knows what the right and wrong things are to do. I have no regret, but with the experience I have now, I think I would look at things a little bit more critically, and I would make sure that that deal or that arrangement values me and kind of benefits both sides, because I think that's what a good partnership is made of, right? If the athlete is taken care of, they feel valued, they get what they deserve, and the brand also wins as part of that partnership. I think that's how sponsorship can be fantastic and how it can really work. I also don't think it's necessary. I don't think that it is a fundamental ingredient for me on my path, but if something came up that would really add value to my life and to my sporting career, of course I consider that. And for the time being, when I'm not in the French Pyrenees, in Flagstaff in the mountains, in St. Moritz in the mountains, away running, I will be in Manchester at home, because we've made ourselves a home there. You know, yes, we moved up there to join the team and for me to be as part of that setup. We've really loved living in Manchester. We like it up north, so there's no real big rush to move back down south and have less space. No offense, well, I can say this because I'm a southerner, but people are friendlier up north. It's true. And we like that. Yeah, it rains a little bit more often, but in all seriousness, like, we have more flexibility now in terms of where we base ourselves. So I can decide where I go on my camps, where I go to race. If I want to just go away and live somewhere else for 3 weeks, 6 months, I can do that, which is really cool. I get to take my job with me. I'm in such a privileged position in that regard. And we worked hard to get here, so, you know, why not experience really cool corners of the world? Next up, we're gonna be heading to Flagstaff for just over 2 months this summer, which is really exciting. I really enjoyed my time out there in December and January and last year as well. And I'm rather excited to spend some time in those mountains with no snow. And other than that, I'll also say that I absolutely, definitely, 100% will still be full-time loving the grind. Thanks for following along on this journey, guys. Appreciate you. It's the climb. I can go at the end if you want.